This was the best method to bring up the Meemaw gambling story if Georgie and Mandy's first marriage had to. Jim owing her money was hilarious, but Meemaw is a wonderful, vibrant lady who deserves better than to be in problems all the time for her illegal casino. There were several humorous moments in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 1 episode 19, where Jim was the one who was in debt rather than the one requesting money from Mandy. I felt really grateful. Jim was called out on his hypocrisy by Mandy. Even though Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 1 episode 19 had a clear punchline, I still found it to be enjoyable. On Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 1 episode 18, Jim's rude actions were primarily motivated by his rage that Mandy had the audacity to spend her money on herself rather than on rent. He went on and on about how she needed to demonstrate her thanks to him by paying him anything toward home expenditures, but all the time, he owed Meemaw $1,200. Given that Jim was spending money on a side project that no one was aware of, it would have been absurd for Mandy to ignore the hypocrisy. Perhaps he wouldn't be so in need of Mandy's money to make up the gap if he hadn't lost $1,200 on wagers. Just letting you know. I never thought I'd have anything positive to say about Audrey when Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 1 started. Her snootiness and her opinion that Georgie wasn't good enough used to irritate me every single time. However, I was cheering her on when she confronted Meemaw this time. She was witty, forceful, and firm. Audrey, you won't get paid. Meemaw, Jim lost the wager he placed. Audrey, you also placed a wager. Jim would pay you, you bet. I'm still giggling at the way she tried to turn the gambling situation around to get out of owing Meemaw money. Naturally, that did not mean that Jim was no longer seeing Audrey, which was the proper course of action. Audrey was correct in saying that the gaming, which she believes is a waste of money, was worse than lying about it. My admiration for Jim and Audrey's marriage grows as the show progresses. Even though they argue frequently, they always work things out and eventually smooth up their communication issues. When Audrey decides she can't stand something, she can't be persuaded otherwise. She knows when to pick her battles and when to confront Jim about his stupidity. Dale's participation was beneficial. You are aware that I like Dale if you have been reading my evaluations for some time. Even though he never plays a significant part, his remarks are always entertaining, and this time was no exception. Admire this program? We want to continue writing about it because we feel the same way. We can make sure we get there with your share or remark. That is how assisting independent media works. Annie Potts and Craig T. Nelson are two of the greatest comedians in the business, and Meemaw and Dale argue the way people who know each other well do. Because of this, I never really gripe about Meemaw-centric episodes, even when the plot is subpar. Without Meemaw, there would be no Dale. Why I was startled by how much I enjoyed this story. Meemaw's sole story is this gambling ring foolishness, which frequently disappoints me. Her plot in Young Sheldon season 7 didn't appeal to me. Meemaw is more than just the grandmother who gives her grandchildren advice, which, in any case, is generally ignored. She did, however, have a compelling story about how the storm damaged her house and cost her all the money she had stashed in the Raisin Bran. She didn't need to end it with a season-long plot about how she enlisted Georgie in her illicit gambling operation, got jailed, and carried on operating a gambling ring covertly while on probation. I was irritated that they were dragged into Georgie and Mandy's first marriage because those stories were ridiculous and didn't help her character. Furthermore, even though it was humorous, Meemaw did not enjoy the first time around with her gambling on Georgie and Mandy's first marriage season 1 episode 14. After that, I had hoped that this gambling saga would end, but sadly, it continued. As a reviewer, it's difficult for me since, although I dislike the plot, I can't help but think that the episodes that feature it are some of the most enjoyable. Random remarks regarding season 1 episode 19 of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Although I like it better when Connor plays a larger role, it was amusing when he insisted that they use margarine because Jim blew all of their money. Ruben's persona still doesn't seem that relevant to me. Tell him a story, or leave him alone. I wish the final altercation between Georgie and Mandy had not occurred. Now the quarrel between Audrey and Jim went to a new pair. Fans of Georgie and Mandy, it's your turn. The only way the good stuff endures is if we continue the conversation. Leave a comment with your opinions, your voice counts.